All right, here is The Murder on the Links, Chapter 15. A photograph. The doctor's words were so surprising that we were all momentarily taken aback. Here was a man stabbed with a dagger which we knew to have been stolen only 24 hours previously, and yet Dr. Durand asserted positively that he had been dead at least 48 hours. The whole thing was fantastic to the last extreme. We were still recovering from the surprise of the doctor's announcement when a telegram was brought to me. It had been sent up from the hotel to the villa. I tore it open. It was from Poirot and announced his return by the train arriving at Merlinville at 12:28. I looked at my watch and saw that I had just time to get comfortably to the station and meet him there. I felt that it was of the utmost importance that he should know at once of the new and startling developments in the case. Evidently, I reflected, Poirot had had no difficulty in finding what he wanted in Paris. The quickness of his return proved that. Very few hours had sufficed. I wondered how he would take the exciting news I had to impart. The train was some minutes late, and I strolled aimlessly up and down the platform until it occurred to me that I might pass the time by asking a few questions as to who had left Merlinville by the last train on the evening of the tragedy. I approached the chief porter, an intelligent-looking man, and had little difficulty in persuading him to enter upon the subject. It was a disgrace to the police, he hotly affirmed, that such brigands of assassins should be allowed to go about unpunished. I hinted that there was some possibility they might have left by the midnight train, but he negatived the idea decidedly. He would have noticed 2 foreigners, he was sure of it. Only about 20 people had left by the train, and he could not have failed to observe them. I do not know what put the idea into my head. Possibly it was the deep anxiety underlying Marthe Dubois' tones, but I asked suddenly, "Young Monsieur Renaud, he did not leave by that train, did he?" "Ah, no, monsieur. To arrive and start off again within half an hour. It would not be amusing, that." I stared at the man, the significance of his words almost escaping me. Then I saw. "You mean," I said, my heart beating a little, "that Monsieur Jacques Renaud arrived at Merlinville that evening?" "But yes, monsieur, by the last train arriving the other way, the 11:40. My brain whirled. That, then, was the reason of Martha's poignant anxiety. Jacques Renaud had been in Merlinville on the night of the crime. But why had he not said so? Why, on the contrary, had he led us to believe that he had remained in Cherbourg? Remembering his frank, boyish countenance, I could hardly bring myself to believe that he had any connection with the crime. Yet why this silence on his part about so vital a matter? One thing was certain, Martha had known all along. Hence her anxiety, and her eager questioning of Poirot to know whether anyone were suspected. The cogitations were interrupted by the arrival of the train, and in another moment I was greeting Poirot. The little man was radiant. He beamed and vociferated, and, forgetting my English reluctance, embraced me warmly on the platform. "Mon cher ami, I have succeeded, but succeeded to a marvel." "Indeed? I'm delighted to hear it. Have you heard the latest here?" "How would you that I should hear anything? There have been some developments, eh? The brave Giraud, he has made an arrest, or even arrests, perhaps. Ah, but I will make him look foolish, that one. But where are you taking me, my friend? Do we not go to the hotel? It is necessary that I attend to my moustache. They are deplorably limp from the heat of traveling. Also, without doubt, there is dust on my coat, and my tie. That I must rearrange." I cut short his remonstrances. "My dear Poirot, never mind all that. We must go to the villa at once. There has been another murder." I have frequently been disappointed when fancying that I was giving news of importance to my friend. Either he has known it already, or he has dismissed it as irrelevant to the main issue, and in the latter case events have usually proved him justified. But this time I could not complain of missing my effect. Never have I seen a man so flabbergasted. His jaw dropped. All the jauntiness went out of his bearing. He stared at me open-mouthed. "What is that you say? Another murder? Ah, then, I am all wrong. I have failed. Giraud may mock himself at me. He will have reason." "You did not expect it, then?" "I? Not the least in the world. It demolishes my theory. It ruins everything. No." He stopped dead, thumping himself on the chest. "It is impossible. I cannot be wrong. The facts, taken methodically and in their proper order, admit of only one explanation. I must be right. I am right." "But then," he interrupted me. "Wait, my friend. I must be right. Therefore, this new murder is impossible unless... Oh, wait, I implore you, say no word. He was silent for a moment or two, then, resuming his normal manner, he said in a quiet, assured voice, "The victim is a man of middle age. His body was found in the locked shed near the scene of the crime and had been dead at least 48 hours, and it is most probable that he was stabbed in a similar manner to Monsieur Renaud, though not necessarily in the back." It was my turn to gape, and gape I did. In all my knowledge of Poirot, he had never done anything so amazing as this, and, almost inevitably, a doubt crossed my mind. "Poirot," I cried, "you're pulling my leg. You've heard all about it already." He turned his earnest gaze upon me reproachfully. "Would I do such a thing? I assure you that I have heard nothing whatsoever. Did you not observe the shock your news was to me?" "But how on earth could you know all that?" "I was right, then? But I knew it. The little gray cells, my friend, the little gray cells. They told me. Thus, and in no other way, could there have been a second death. Now tell me all. If we go round to the left here, we can take a short cut across the golf links, which will bring us to the back of the village in Eviev much more quickly." As we walked, taking the way he had indicated, I recounted all I knew. Poirot listened attentively. "The dagger was in the wound, you say? That is curious. You are sure it was the same one?" "Absolutely certain. That's what makes it so impossible." "Nothing is impossible. There may have been two daggers." I raised my eyebrows. "Surely that is in the highest degree unlikely. It would be a most extraordinary coincidence." "You speak, as usual, without reflection, Hastings. In some cases, two identical weapons would be highly improbable, but not here. This particular weapon was a war souvenir, which was made to Jack Renaud's orders. It is really highly unlikely, when you come to think of it, that he should have had only one made. Very probable he would have had another for his own use." "But nobody has mentioned such a thing," I objected. A hint of the lecturer crept into Poirot's tone. "My friend, in working upon a case, one does not take into account only the things that are mentioned. There is no reason to mention many things which may be important. Equally, there is often an excellent reason for not mentioning them. You can take your choice of the two motives." I was silent, impressed in spite of myself. Another few minutes brought us to the famous shed. We found all our friends there, and, after an interchange of polite amenities, Poirot began his task. Having watched Giraud at work, I was keenly interested. Poirot bestowed but a cursory glance on the surroundings. The only thing he examined was the ragged coat and trousers by the door. A disdainful smile rose to Giraud's lips, and as though noting it, Poirot flung the bundle down again. "Old clothes of the gardeners?" he queried. "Exactly," said Giraud. Poirot knelt down by the body. His fingers were rapid but methodical. He examined the texture of the clothes, and satisfied himself that there were no marks on them. The boots he subjected to special care, also the dirty and broken fingernails. Whilst examining the latter, he threw a quick question at Giraud. "You saw these?" "Yes, I saw them," replied the other. His face remained inscrutable. Suddenly Poirot stiffened. "Dr. Durand." "Yes." The doctor came forward. "There is foam on the lips. You observe it?" "I didn't notice it, I must admit. But do you observe it now?" "Oh, certainly." Poirot again shot a question at Giraud. "You noticed it, without doubt?" The other did not reply. Poirot proceeded. The dagger had been withdrawn from the wound. It reposed in a glass jar by the side of the body. Poirot examined it, then he studied the wound closely. When he looked up, his eyes were excited and shone with the green light I knew so well. "It is a strange wound, this. It has not bled. There is no stain on the clothes. The blade of the dagger is slightly discolored, that is all. What do you think, Monsieur le Docteur?" "I can only say that it is most abnormal." "It is not abnormal at all. It is most simple. The man was stabbed after he was dead." And, stilling the clamor of voices that arose with a wave of his hand, Poirot turned to Giraud and added, "Monsieur Giraud agrees with me, do you not, monsieur?" Whatever Giraud's real belief, he accepted the position without moving a muscle. Calmly and almost scornfully he replied, "Certainly I agree." The murmur of surprise and interest broke out again. "But what an idea!" cried Monsieur Otet. "To stab a man after he is dead? Barbaric! Unheard of! Some unappeasable hate, perhaps." "No, Monsieur le Juge," said Poirot. "I should fancy it was done quite cold-bloodedly, to create an impression." What impression? The impression it nearly did create, returned Poirot oracularly. That's a fun word. Monsieur Bex had been thinking. How then was the man killed? He was not killed. He died. He died, Monsieur le Juge, if I am not much mistaken, of an epileptic fit. This statement of Poirot's again aroused considerable excitement. Dr. Durand knelt down again and made a searching examination. At last he rose to his feet. Well, Monsieur le Docteur? Monsieur Poirot, I am inclined to believe that you are correct in your assertion. I was misled to begin with. The uncontrovertible fact that the man had been stabbed distracted my attention from any other indications. Poirot was the hero of the hour. The examining magistrate was profuse in compliments. Poirot responded gracefully, and then excused himself on the pretext that neither he nor I had yet lunched, and that he wished to repair the ravages of the journey. As we were about to leave the shed, Giraud approached us. One more thing, Monsieur Poirot, he said in his suave, mocking voice. We found this coiled round the handle of the dagger. A woman's hair. Ah, said Poirot, a woman's hair. What woman's, I wonder? I wonder also, said Giraud. Then, with a bow, he left us. He was insistent, the good Giraud, said Poirot thoughtfully, as we walked towards the hotel. I wonder in what direction he hopes to mislead me. A woman's hair. We lunched heartily, but I found Poirot somewhat distrait and inattentive. Afterwards we went up to our sitting room, and there I begged him to tell me something of his mysterious journey to Paris. Willingly, my friend. I went to Paris to find this. He took from his pocket a small, faded newspaper cutting. It was the reproduction of a woman's photograph. He handed it to me. I uttered an exclamation. You recognize it, my friend? I nodded. Although the photo obviously dated from very many years back, and the hair was dressed in a different style, the likeness was unmistakable. Madame de Broglie, I exclaimed. Poirot shook his head with a smile. Not quite correct, my friend. She did not call herself by that name in those days. That is a picture of the notorious Madame Baroldi. Madame Baroldi! In a flash, the whole thing came back to me. The murder trial that had evoked such worldwide interest. The Baroldi case. All right, so that is the end of chapter 15. We are now officially past the halfway point of the book. Great job, you guys. We're following along. So, in this one, we have learned that Poirot returns from Paris and is initially shocked to hear of another murder. We also learned at the very beginning, and I forgot to type this up before I started recording, but we learned that Jack Renaud had actually been in Merlinville. He was in town the night of the murder. So that was something that he had hidden from people. He had let people assume that he was still off in the other town. So he actually was around the night the murder happened. All right, so that's something else we learned. When Poirot figures out how it must be connected to the case, though, combined with his assumptions about what is really going on, he is able to predict the appearance of the body before he sees it, and this shocks Hastings. Hastings thinks he must be playing some sort of trick, that he must have known about it, but Poirot figured out why there would be a second body. So when he examines the body, he figures out that the man had died already of a really bad seizure. That's an epileptic fit. And the body was stabbed after death. After it was already dead, someone drove a knife into it. He's able to figure this out because there's no blood around the wound. Poirot has returned from Paris with a picture from a newspaper clipping that ties the current character Madame de Broglie with an old case Poirot remembers. They're referencing this other fictional case called the Baroldi case and something that happened during that time. Poirot presumably had been very familiar with that case as well when it happened. I don't know if he was working on it or if he just remembers hearing about it and reading about it, but it stuck in his mind as a very memorable case, and the details and the particulars of what's going on right now are similar to this old case. So that's what tomorrow's chapter is going to be all about. Okay, have a great night, guys.